starting our Routinehub live session here. This is with CherriLang. We'll be talking with Brandon today. We do have Twilsonco kind of doing a separate recording on top of mine just for redundancy. And he has this amazing setup with his CherriLang Visual Code Studio and the Discord as well. So we'll be sure to get this recording nice and tidy for everyone that might have missed the live session today. So without further ado, guys, please take it away.
Cool. Well, hey guys, I'm T. Wilson Co. I'm hosting, but hopefully not doing too much of the speaking today. So I'm just going to pass things off to Chris and Brandon, the creator of Cherri Shortcuts.
Yeah, and I first just want to say thank you for joining, T. Wilson Co. Thank you for providing us with this exceptional screen. And just for context, I have been following Cherri for a couple of months, if not even over a year. And the minute I saw this idea and its implementation, I felt it urgent to reach out and meet Brandon. It has proven to be one of the best decisions I've ever made, which is one, finding Brandon on the internet, two, getting a chance to connect with them, hosting a podcast, and then working with him on various parts of the end-to-end shortcuts stack. And with that said, Brandon, please feel free to go as high level or as deep as you'd like. This is a complete developer session, and don't feel like you need to dumb things down or ever worry that we're not interested in how technical and how deep you can go. And again, thanks for joining and looking forward.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Hi, everybody. So yeah, Chris asked me to be here today to talk about CherriLang and just do kind of a sort of hands-on demo of the language and just what you could do with it, just to give everybody like at least a good taste of it. So thank you guys for coming and for your interest in the project. I really appreciate it. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna share green here. Okay. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Can everybody? Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. So, I guess for those who don't know, I don't know how familiar, like, so you were saying, like, I can kind of start at the beginning, or I guess I don't know
Yeah,
how familiar people are.
you're. I think it's It would be helpful to just first describe the project, maybe what inspired you to start working on it, and then for the group, one thing that I asked Brandon to do was maybe introduce an example of how you would use Cherri to create a shortcut. And to be a bit more concrete, I asked him if he would be willing to make a fun quiz. Quizzes are usually short. They usually have your format of question and answer. And so the whole goal of just making a quiz template was to just demonstrate sort of the flexibility and power. But with that said, yeah, Brandon, feel free to start just even from the beginning.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so yeah, like, so I first discovered shortcuts in about 2018, whenever it was put into iOS as shortcuts, or the app was changed over to shortcuts. I started to get into the Routinehub community a little bit after that, and I don't remember exactly when it was, but at some point I discovered that some people were doing programming languages with this stuff. The first one I found was SCPL, and I had done a little bit of involvement in that project, but nothing really major. And then in recent times I came back to it, and I saw that there was an issue with signing, and there was an issue with some projects because formats had changed, because things had so drastically changed from the initial version to what it is now, that they couldn't it didn't make sense to get back into the project for them. Um, so I started making Cherri in October of 2022. I've been working on it since then. It is now in sort of a beta version. It's not quite 100% production ready. I do want to make that disclaimer. But it is getting very close to where I'm wanting to get to like a 1.0 or something like that. I want to expand the support for actions and do a bit more testing, and stuff like this is going to be great for that, because then I've got more people to give feedback on the language. So if you run into issues with Cherri or any of that, feel free to report stuff like that. Okay, so I guess we'll get into what Cherri is exactly. So Cherri, so like some other shortcut, like SEPL, as far as I understood it, was a JavaScript compiler that ran on the client side or on Node and on the server. Some of these other apps are Swift compilers within an app. Cherri is just the compiler, written in Go. It's meant for a CLI kind of terminal experience. So like if I hit Cherri, I get this screen here of this is what it is, this is what you could do with it. We input a file. We can do various things here. We won't worry about that too much right now. But this is primarily the way to interact with it, at least like initially. Later, as you've seen with, I don't know how to pronounce your username, but Twilsonco was showing the playground. That's another way to interact with it, and I've been working more and more to get to that point, with having the same kind of accessibility as the other ones. And I think it's just because like the primary focus with Cherri was this signing problem and figuring out like doing a compiler like that. And yeah, like, so now we're at the point where it's we've got a playground with signing. We've got a macOS app that I'm starting to work on as well. So this is just one of many ways to interact with it. All right, so I guess we'll get to the demo here. So I'm just gonna make a quick quiz file, and then jump in here to, excuse me, there it is. And I've got some syntax highlighting in here, so we won't see all just white text. So, well, one of the easiest things to do in Cherri is to like define a variable, right? So like we've got some questions that we've got to put in this quiz here. So thanks to people at Routinehub, I have some questions that I totally didn't. I totally made myself, and they didn't provide them for me at all. I'm just kidding. So yeah, so there's all the questions. I was working on these all night. Oh man, that's beautiful. So so I got my questions here in another file, and this is part of the other thing with Cherri that I really wanted to focus on, and this is sort of why the compiler was such a focus at first, was because I saw these, like primarily a lot of these apps too, very tied to being apps, to not being able to, completely move out of this ecosystem. And I wanted to create, like, first and foremost, a primarily desktop experience. And I had this opinion because of the way the like attitude of macOS and its like security model versus iOS's security model. And I feel that in this way, Cherri has a lot better viability on a platform like macOS rather than iOS. And you can just get a developer experience that you're much more used to if you're a web developer, or if you program even just recreationally. It should be pretty similar to whatever you're already doing. Okay, so to show what I mean by that and why I have it in a different file is that we can do includes here. So when I'm working in the local file system and not even just even on one just large file, and this is sometimes the thing that I noticed with a lot of things was, unless they gave you sort of like a I don't know, you have like a iCloud shortcut app that's storing these files in your iCloud, and then you can include them together. I'm not sure if I saw anything like that. So a big thing for me was to have this in here where I can have lots of data maybe in a file like this with questions, and I don't have to have it in my main file. We can just do it like that. That was super easy. So whenever I compile the shortcut, which I can just do by doing Cherri, quiz.cherri, and that's just the command in the file. I don't need anything else. And I might take a second here because I'm having to do something special for the signing here. Okay, and then now we've got, let me just pull this up here. A quiz shortcut that is compiled with all these questions. So we have here all these dictionaries that's being added to this questions variable that we created to create this collection of questions that we want to iterate over. So I guess I'll go over this a little more detail too, about like the syntax and what all this is. So this here is an array. This is an array of dictionaries, and we define arrays in Cherri the same way that they are in shortcuts. So when you do this, what it's essentially translating to is that you want to create a variable called questions, and then you want to add to that variable all of these things that you want to put in this array. And so then we can it becomes not just a single value array, but a multiple value array that we can then iterate over with a for each item action. So that's what we're gonna start to do here. Okay. So one of the first things that I think a lot of people do is they'll come up with I want to put like my icon and stuff. So we'll do that really quick. So generally, how you do that, and we have this as kind of an API that I consider to be more satisfying in this way of you have definitions, and then there's different types of definitions that you can make. And so I'm not doing an icon and then specifying it. I have a definition, I have an icon, or excuse me, a glyph, and then I can give it a glyph keyword, and the compiler will tell you if you get it wrong what glyphs you can use, but it's a lot easier to look in the documentation. There's a full list of glyphs. Not exactly how I'd like to handle it going forward in the future, but it's a bit difficult to handle glyphs and getting them out of shortcuts. I'm still working on that part of it.
Brandon, if it's okay with you, would you mind increasing the font size a little bit more?
Oh my word, I'm sorry.
Just for the people above the age of 30. There you go.
No problem. Is that good enough? Can everybody see?
Yeah, that looks
I
good.
think that's Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, we'll define this is going to be a quiz, so I have a glyph here that we're going to use called the circle question, and this is just that glyph that has the question mark in it with the circle behind it. And you'll see here now. Yeah, now we have a shortcut here with question mark and a circle behind it. So that was super easy. And then to define a color, this is even simpler than the glyph. It's just a limited set of colors, and they're all given just a standard name just based on what you want to do with different color shades and stuff. So no like hard values or anything you got to put in here. So we have define glyph, circle question, define color, red, and we'll compile that. And yeah, get a shortcut here. Now it's the color red. Okay. All right, so let's do what a lot of shortcuts do. Let's welcome our user to our shortcut with an alert. This is kind of like the hello Cherri, if you will, of Cherri is doing an alert here. So we do the same syntax as like I'd say kind of like a JavaScript like syntax, but with a mixture of kind of Go and Ruby. It's not super crazy. It's mostly just in the styling of it. It's just a few nuances to learn. So it's nothing out of the ordinary that anybody wouldn't be used to. Like we would call an action like a function with parentheses. We give arguments in a commented list. It's just when you're defining a variable, you're going to define it more like you would in Ruby, or PHP will do like a prepend with a $sign. If you're doing like statements, we won't have parentheses for the expression. It's a bit more like Go syntax, where we'll have a bar, a condition, and then another the thing that we want to compare to. And we do this for a lot of these, but it's not really any more weird than that, other than just like very specific syntax relating to shortcuts, which is pretty sparse actually.
Well, compared to a giant action on your screen, a single line is nothing.
Yes. Okay, so let's welcome people in here with an alert, and I got a message here and a title, and we'll call this welcome to Cherri's Shortcut Showdown, and welcome people in like that. And then down here, we'll start the quiz and start iterating over the questions. So let's start with a count of how many answers they've gotten correct. We'll want to, have a total for when we want to grade the quiz. We'll want to probably list how many questions there are, like what question they're on. So we could put the count of the questions in the variable. And then we'll want to keep track of which question we're on, because we'll have to iterate through these, so we won't have the index that we would have if we did like a repeat with each. We'll have to do for each. So we'll make an index variable. Okay. So to iterate through an array or a dictionary, I think maybe just an array, I'm not sure. I think I've iterated a dictionary, but I don't want to say for sure. We will do a for. We will name what we want our repeat item for each loop to be. This is because like repeat items and repeat what's the other one? No, repeat item has a what is it? It has an index on it. In Cherri, it's not a thing where you have to remember which repeat item you're on. It is still available as a global, as is repeat index if you really want to use it, but for convenience sake and also not having to go around and count the repeat indexes, we just name the variable there. We declare what queue is in, which is going to be questions, which again we had over here. Okay, and then let's make sure that Cherri knows and that Shortcuts knows what question is or queue is. So we'll want to declare that, but I'm going to declare this in a specific way because I don't need to modify the question and I don't need to use it again. I want to use it sort of like when I have an action and then I use another action and I'm like, no, I just want the output of that one. In Cherri, what we do is we have those called constants. So I do a const like I would in JavaScript or some other languages. I'll give it an identifier just like I would for a variable, and then I'll point it to my action just like I did up here. And this essentially just means that whenever the shortcut is compiled, whenever I reference this, I'll be referencing the output of this action. And so obviously that means I can't change it later in the shortcut. But you end up with way less actions if you don't need to modify the output of the action. So it's a good best practice to keep in mind. So we'll do this here to get the dictionary to tell Shortcuts and Cherri like this is a dictionary that we're looking at here. We'll want to look at our questions here to see the structure. Okay, so we've got questions, options, and an answer. So let's get the question string there. We'll call it question stir, and we will use the get value action and to look into question. So this would be, each one of these, objects here. Grab question out of there. You'll notice a lot of these actions are named like their counterparts, so you can't come in here and just start typing, get this, get that, and you'll notice, oh, there's get first item, there's get value, and so on. There's some actions that are named a bit differently, but it's mainly because they were very complex actions and it was necessary to break them up to avoid having these actions that you're putting in here and you just have argument after argument after argument and you're having to break them off into a new line or scroll over here into another line. So other than that, actions are for the most part named just as they would be in shortcuts. Okay, so let's get the question options. Now we have the question string. So I'll do the same thing I did here. And this time get the options. All right, and then I will want to tell shortcuts that the options is a dictionary. So I will make a options constant and get the question options dictionary. So now I have a list of options here that I can then use to prompt the user. So I've got a question, and then we can give it each of these objects here and get the value here. So if they pick this option, then they picked A, we'll compare it to the answer and use that to calculate their score. So last but not least, let's get the answer. Oops. Question and then answer. And then, yeah, let's prompt the user to choose an item. So we will use the action choose from list and give it our options and then our prompt, which what we'll do here to tell the user what the question is, how many questions there are. We're going to use some string interpolation to embed these variables, just like you would in shortcuts, but in this case, just in text. So we'll just surround a variable reference here that we want to insert into a string in curly braces, and then type in the name of the variable. And that's all we have to do. So I'll have the question string, and then in parentheses, I will put the index of the current question that we're on, and out of the questions size. So how many have the total questions? Okay. So let's go ahead and compile this and just see what we get it. And, you know, we can do a little bit of debugging here. We can use show and embed chosen item in it so we can see what we pick. Okay. Okay, here we are. So now we've got all these questions that we're adding to the questions dictionary, and here we are. We've got the alert here telling us welcome to Cherri Shortcut Showdown. We assign 0 to our correct answers to initialize it with a value, and that also tells Cherri that it is an integer. That's the main reason why I assigned it an initial value. We then count the items and questions to get the question size. We set 0 to the index, start iterating on the questions here. We start getting dictionaries, grabbing values, just as we did. And then here we have our choose from with our prompt here with our lovely string interpolation with our question string, the whole deal, and then we're going to show the chosen item. So let's go ahead and run this. We're going to get an alert. Welcome to Cherri Shortcut Showdown. And try and answer these questions. Oh, it's going to say 0 initially. I got to put it at 1, I think. Or maybe start counting at the beginning. So let's just go through here. Yep, and there we go. So we'll get the answer that they gave when they choose it. So let's use that. So now we'll be able to just take a chosen item and just compare it to the answer. So when we get this back from choose from list, to do a comparison, this is something I want to fix in the compiler at some point, but the if statement block is a little bit picky about what you need to have as the first operand of your comparison. So I'm going to embed chosen item, choose item, excuse me, in a string, just so that it knows that it's text, and that will basically just make it a text action that I can reference, you know, just as you would to kind of flatten some value into a string. And so then I'll use a if block to compare choice to answer. Just do an equality operator. And then I will just use curly braces to wrap it. And then here's where if the choice does equal the answer, we will take correct answers and increment it. Okay, and then the other thing that we wanted to do was also increment the index each time. And you'll see here it has the similar syntax that a lot of other languages use. In the case of like a string, this would mean to concat. In the case of a number, it's going to mean to add. In the case of an array, it's going to mean to add to an array. That's kind of what that syntax is about. Okay, so let's then do a little debug and just put out our correct answers, and we'll see how well I do. Okay. And we've got this new compiled quiz shortcut. And we'll just run it here. Welcome to Cherri's Shortcut Showdown. Test your Apple Shortcuts knowledge and see if you have what it takes to master automation on your iPhone. Okay. What is the primary purpose of Apple Shortcuts? To automate tasks. Which app is used? Shortcuts. We'll see. You can see here that the increment is now indexing, or the index is now incrementing here every time we are answering the question. What is the term for a series of actions that are triggered by a single command or tap? I'm gonna say a routine, but I don't know. Which programming concept is fundamental to understanding the logic behind creating shortcuts? I'm gonna say looping. True or false, shortcuts can only be created using the Shortcuts app and cannot be shared with others. Haha, false. We just proved that today. Which of the following actions is not possible with shortcuts? So this is a funny question to me because I think it's this one, but I think you can do this now. What is the maximum number of actions allowed in a single shortcut? Oh, geez, I don't know. I've had one with more than 100 actions, so I'll say unlimited. What programming excuse me, language is used to create complex actions within shortcuts? I'm gonna say Swift. I think with like the Siri intents and stuff like that. I don't know. What is the name of the feature that suggests and creates shortcuts based on the user? Siri suggestions. How can you trigger your shortcuts? In a specific phrase. Okay, yeah. Okay, not too bad. Probably got one or two wrong there, but not too bad. I think the max is 10, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, you passed.
Yeah. So,
way to go, Brandon. Woo!
Woo! Congrats!
This truly is my biggest accomplishment.
Imagine coming all this way and then you failed a quiz.
that would be pretty rough. That'd be... All right, so let's take this correct answer and let's like say something like, you know, congrats if you get like a really good score or something, or if you get maybe like between a score or something like that.
How about for each of the wrong answers, it starts a conversation with ChatGPT to help you understand and reflect on why it was wrong.
Yeah, I think I have an else block for that.
It'll be
maybe someday. All right. So we'll do an alert to let's say that, that's the quiz. Let's see how well you did for the message, and then we'll give it a title. Quiz complete. All right. Then we will evaluate their score. So let's say if they got a perfect 10, which they did, great job. Then we'll put an alert here with some text. And then to prevent us from doing any other comparisons, we'll just stop. And then we'll do some betweens. So let's do if correct answers, and then to do between, we'll still have an operator here, but it'll be two ending less than greater than signs, and then we'll put each number that we want it to be between. So we'll do 8 and 9. And then let's do, whoops, 2 more. And this one be less than those, and that's 3 and 1. Okay. And then we will put alerts for these accordingly. To give different reactions when they get different scores. And stop each time, just so we don't do any unnecessary comparisons. And there we go. Alright, so now we've got a quiz here, and now we've got some reactions to the answers. Let's try and do the quiz fully then and see what it says about me. Okay. Quiz here. And there we go. Alright. So let's just go over what we got here. We got a quiz shortcut with the icon. We got questions, input. We put a bunch of dictionaries in it of these quiz questions. We're showing an alert. We set some variables to keep track of answers. We're incrementing the index now each time. Well, this is what I was talking about earlier with Cherri will automatically, whenever you do these with the queue here that we put, create a repeat item variable. And again, this is just so if I put another repeat and another repeat, I don't have to keep track of it, and keeps those variables separate from each other distinctly. Okay, and then yeah, we get all of our stuff here. We ask them to pick it, compare it, we increment our correct answers. You might be noticing, by the way, that there's some nothing blocks here, but I didn't put a nothing.
I see nothing.
So these nothing. There's a automatic thing in Cherri that if at the ending of statements, so repeats, if and any kind of thing like that, like menu items, things like of that nature that are stacked on top of each other and can have a big output. Cherri will add on to the end of these, and it looks like it didn't do it perfectly because there should be one here, to completely clear the output of the end of the action. Oh, actually it does do that because we end with nothing here, and so then nothing comes out of the end repeat. So this is so that we're not storing inside of the output of the if or the menu or whatever it happens to be, the output of whatever we just did inside that statement. And this helps greatly reduce the runtime of memory that the shortcuts runtime has to take up, and can end up making a much more efficient shortcut. And that's part of the focus with Cherri, as well as to not necessarily completely abstract away the entire process. I mean, as we were talking about this here, we were able to look at what we were doing, and pretty much almost exactly line it up to what's going to happen in the shortcut. But because doing correct answers +1 is more natural to a programmer, but it's not all that different from correct answers +1 set variable correct answers. So convenient things like that, but not quite so much, except for one thing, which I'll talk about later, that all is trying to almost one-to-one go to it. So this makes it a lot easier if you have a problem with the way something did come out right. You can generally look in here and see, I'm trying to do this. Shortcuts is thinking I'm trying to do that. And there's not just, a bunch of gobbledygook, actions all over the place with, scrambled letters and all this. It's just as one-to-one as possible, so that you can quickly dive into the result and debug your code. So let's go through here and see our reactions to. So let me try and do as bad as possible. That's what I'll do. What's the purpose? Let's make some ringtones. I think you use the settings app. Sequence, I guess.
Those all seem like correct answers, so
Yeah.
I don't know who wrote that question.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was thinking maybe I was actually right about that one.
Routine, script, sequence. Those are all good.
Sounds like just synonyms. Clearly use a binary search in shortcuts. Yeah, no, you can't do that. Yeah, no, the timers are bad. You can only have 10.
No, that's just until the macOS Shortcuts app crawls to a halt.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, clearly Python. Let's see. Smart short. Yeah, auto actions. There we go. Yeah, shaking it in front of everybody. Let's see how it did. Oh.
We'll never know.
Between, correct? What did I do? Maybe I got like a 0, maybe?
Oh yeah, you might have gotten a 0. You should have just done like is less than 3 or less than 4.
We'll add a contingency for this really quick. Less than 1. We'll do that.
I think then it should print, "Hello, Brandon. We meet again. We knew you'd be here."
Let's. Here we go. What do I want to be greeted with? Where's the smirk?
Can I name my variables using emoji?
Does shortcuts let you do that?
Maybe.
Then I think so, but so it's written in Go, so there's full Unicode support for injecting. Whoops, that ended up over here. Should be there. So you can put emojis into your shortcuts, and they'll translate over. Unless I'm about to have a terrible realization that they're horribly broken. I don't. Oh, so far as variable names go, actually, yeah, I do limit it to alphanumeric and underscore. So even if shortcuts was okay with it, I don't have to be. So
I'm just shocked that you don't name all your variables using emoji.
that's true. That nobody knows why. I don't even know myself. Yeah, so there we go. We can like, I don't know about that one, Brandon. Hello. So okay, make some. Well, yeah, we'll just kind of click through here. Doesn't matter what score we get. Shouldn't anyway. Hey, there we go. So I got a score between 1 and 3, and it's never too late to learn. I'm sure I'll get with it. So I'm just starting now. All right, so let's do like the final thing, which is like, okay, so I've got this shortcut now, and I want to show it off to the world. How do I, name the file not quiz.shortcut? So the playground has issues with this right now because it's only meant for single files right now, and it's the same with includes. But if you're using, excuse me, Cherri locally, you can do this. You can say define name, and this will allow you to set the name of the file to whatever you want. So we called it Cherri's cut show down, and then we can compile that. And there we go. And then if I look in here, there's our shortcut named Cherri Shortcut Showdown. And if I grab this from over here, we'll see the same thing. So I can get a shortcut that's more like this and looks much cleaner, much more like a shortcut that you'd see on average. But that's the nice thing is that then you can name your files however you'd like. I can have questions.cherri, quiz.cherri. At the end of the day, the final shortcut artifact that I make is going to be named whatever I define. So that's a nice feature. Chris, I don't know if you wanted me to try and put this on Routinehub or if you wanted to open it up for questions or.
Hello, Chris.
Chris?
I think we should probably start taking some questions.
Oh, here you go.
Oh, hey, here he is.
Sorry guys, I was talking and I had it on mute. Rookie
Oh,
mistake.
no worries.
I definitely would like for us to open it up for questions because there seems to be a couple of great ones. I would like though for you to do one call out or one announcement, which is if developers are working on what you created and they need support or help, what's the best way to seek that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we have a GitHub where you'll see he'll pull it up here. You can either go to the GitHub page to report an issue. Primarily, the documentation is your friend, but if you find something where I went to try and compile it and I just wasn't able to do it. Currently, unfortunately, there is a known issue in a more recent version of macOS where the shortcuts have issues signing. But if you do have that issue and not another issue, then you should be able to use the playground for that. But yeah, otherwise, like just general stuff of, hey, I tried to do this thing that it says I can do, what's going on. uh, yeah, we
That's really fun.
um, so yeah, I would go to cherrylang.org. So CHERRI .org. Lang LALANG. Excuse me, I gotta remember how to spell. .org. Um, this is gonna be your friend on just the basic stuff of the syntax, how it all works. There's pretty in-depth explanations on how to install it, how to get it set up, what the differences are. All of the actions that are currently implemented are documented, of which there are many. Um, on usually whenever you see a code example, like you can see there, you'll be able to get like a quick preview of what it'll look like exactly. Um, and yeah, so like you need any help, like check the documentation. If otherwise, happy to take bug reports.
So I see a couple of questions from Aaron D. He's asked quite a few, and let me see if I can answer at least one of them. So one of the questions was, how did you make Cherri, and how much effort did it take? I think the best place to get that answer, Aaron, is on the Routinehub podcast, where we asked something very similar about the etymology and the backstory. So we can skip that one for now. I just recommend you visit the podcast. On the second question, can you use V cards? I think I saw Twilsonco pull up the documentation where V menus are available. And if there's
Yes.
anything else to add, I think that you can go
Oh
there.
yeah, those are I could talk about a few of those. So like yeah, you were seeing there with one of the things in the documentation is you can use this built-in action, and we have a few of these that are actions that are not in shortcuts, but they are internal compiler actions. Not that one. The if you go to vcard menus right there, yeah, there we go. So we have this action called make vcard, and what this does essentially is it just takes the title and the subtitle that you give it, and then it makes a text block within the vcard format. I found myself so many times whenever making vcard menus just copying from other shortcuts, or because every time I tried to remember the format or do it myself, it always fell out of my head and I had to copy it. So this is a huge lifesaver for a lot of people to speed up their development. The additional thing that you can do with it is you can give it a third parameter of a local image path. And so if you give it just like a PNG or something that's in your project, it will actually base64 encode the contents of that file and put it as the photo for the vcard. The only limitation with that, obviously, being that it has to be a local file. You have to be running Cherri on your system, and that it has to be somewhere tangible. It can't be a variable or anything like that, which could change in the future. Another thing like that was I think you pulled it up as like raw action. If you ever this is a little more advanced, but if you ever have an action that's like a third-party action, you're somebody who maybe gets their hands dirty a little bit with p-lists and stuff, or property lists, and you want to put in an action that doesn't currently exist. There exists something called the raw action. This is another one of those built-in actions to the compiler. This will take in a identifier and an array of dictionaries for the parameters, and then it will use that to put an action into your shortcut in that position, at that position in your shortcut. So that's another one of those. And then we have sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, since I'm trying to tie a couple of questions to where you're going with this. For anyone, and what I caught from the raw action is that this is a little bit off a script, meaning like if you want to do something a little bit more custom, have
Yeah.
maybe more control, this is the right way to go. Pairing that with a question from Twilsonco about JavaScript and being able to implement JavaScript, do you have any capabilities with that? For example, one of our members, Glubyte, he's pretty much a badass when it comes to using JavaScript in really unique ways. Would he be able to integrate with Cherry?
I would think so, yeah. I actually had somebody who was making a uh, stack machine sort of thing in JavaScript, and then embedding it into the JavaScript automation action and using
Hmm.
that as a way to feed instructions to the stack machine, and using Cherry as a host for that. So yeah, full support there for running JavaScript for uh, automations and things like that. But maybe that's not quite what he meant. But as far as
Well,
yeah, as far as I'm aware,
if I can follow up on that, so these awesome one-liners. What if I search for like JS sort? So there's some really awesome one-liner scripts. Here we go. And so these things, there's, I imagine that they run much faster when you actually execute the shortcut than the equivalent vanilla shortcuts implementation of a sorting algorithm. Uh,
right?
and so my question about the JavaScript was more about like, could Cherry ever provide its own function library so that you could use sort in Cherry and it would and the action that's produced would be a run JavaScript action that sorts your data.
Oh, sure. Like, one way that you could do that is something that was implemented recently called, well, it was implemented a while ago, but this functionality was implemented recently, called custom actions. If you go there, yeah. So this is the one thing that I was going to talk about later that's not a one-to-one, but is still super cool. Is these custom actions. So you can define a action of your own that you call in the same way that you would say alert or ask for input, which is prompt in Cherry. Um, in this, you can call the ones that you define in the same way, and then you can put whatever actions you want in there. And then, as you can see there, you can define arguments that it accepts and what types of arguments it accepts. And then you would just use either a stop action or an output action to either stop the execution of the um, custom action, which will happen automatically. You don't have to, but if you wanted to stop it early because of a certain condition or something, because of the way an argument came in, or if you wanted to return something, then you could use output and give it whatever output you wanted. So there's that. So you could like have something that's like, oh, go run this JavaScript, and it takes in a script and then puts it through the run JavaScript automation. Um, so those are uh, uh, yeah, very useful for that. Yeah, so that's like an implementation there of like what it actually would look like if you programmed it in Cherry. We essentially put something on top of the shortcut that takes in a very specific internal input that I have tried to thoroughly make sure it does not interact with any other variables that you make. It's like I put tons of underscores and stuff. Um, uh, yeah, so it'll like define these conditionals for, okay, if it's this action, if it's this action that we defined, then bringing these variables, we said that they were numbers, so bring them in, get the numbers out of the arguments that just came in, and then we will name them the same name that you gave the arguments, and then just put your code in there. And so like it ends up working uh, very much like a function, and it'll end up um, uh, working in a way too where if you're not using an action that you've defined, it won't be included in the shortcut. Then you have these actions that um, can be run multiple times in the same shortcut, but it's smaller because all of the logic is contained in this one place, rather than in multiple places. Um, Another way you could do that is with I have copy paste actions there right above. Yeah, yeah. This is a similar thing. I call them pastables. Um,
Why not
yeah,
pasties?
yeah. So like you can define something here that you want to copy around. I think in other languages you call this a macro, and you can just paste something anywhere, and it's a pre-processing parsing that it does. It just goes through like it would for like an include or something, and then just puts whatever you want to be there. So it's like if you were like, I want to do this JavaScript thing, but I want to do it, every this. I don't have to have the, it's like if I'm doing something really simple, this might be a better solution than putting something on top of my shortcut and having it run through all this logic. Like, I would definitely only recommend doing that if you want like if you need something that I want to have an input output uh, for, and not something where it's like I want to call this thing and then do that. I would recommend using this. It's just, yeah, you have to be kind of careful about it.
Well, and
You could probably
there's a
get
performance
pretty lost in
overhead
this.
to calling the shortcut recursively.
Yeah, so it's like a double-edged sword in that if that's something that will make your shortcut smaller and make it more convenient for you to, develop that way, but if it's like, oh, I don't need something that just does an input output, but I need to do the same thing over and over, but I don't want to have to manually write it out, you could use these. So but yeah, no, that's a fair point.
Like, I wonder if anyone's done any benchmarking to compare, like, an unraveled loop versus a regular loop, and compare copy paste your code everywhere versus calling a function 20 times.
Oh yeah.
Cherri would make it pretty easy to conduct that benchmarking.
Yeah, that's true.
And that was that leads directly into my second question, which was about compiler optimizations. So, would it be worthwhile to actually do things like loop unraveling and copy pasting functions? Like the compiler could check how many times is this function called, how many actions does it save to have it as a function versus copy pasting it, and then based on some thresholds, it could make these decisions. And if Cherri was robust to the point where you didn't need any follow-up editing, like the stuff you did today, it just worked immediately when you ran it in shortcuts. You didn't have to fix anything or adjust anything.
Okay.
And so, like, that being the case, it doesn't really matter how complex your shortcut ends up if you're only ever going to edit it via Cherri. And so you could
Right.
do whatever makes it run faster.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely uh try to do that in some places. Like there's definitely times where like menus, for instance, we have something like that where like the like the top menu action requires you to put in the items, but then you have like sequential like items after that. Like it's put into the first action, and then the other actions are um, informed by it. But the
Mm-hmm.
syntax that we have here, you don't have to do it that way. You're just defining the items individually, and then we later keep track of that and then put it in for you. So we have some stuff like that that's like shortcuts and stuff of pun not intended, of things that are convenient, but uh, I don't know. I think it's something I'll have to think about, I guess. Like, but not that I don't have an opinion on it, but like, um, I I I worry about optimizations sometimes, or losing the readability of the artifact, like, and not being able to easily debug it. Like, if you're having a problem with the code, because like I really didn't want it to be a situation where like there were times when I was like making some shortcuts just to test Cherry, where it was like really helpful for me to like when I'm debugging the compiler to be able to uh, look at the final result, and it's not too far off from what I'm wanting it to do. But maybe in the case of things like that, where it's like I have a best practices page.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like I can try and communicate it, what's best and what's not best for like speed of compilation, efficiency of the actual shortcut itself. But that doesn't mean that people are always going to follow that. Um, uh, but yeah, I don't know. I don't want yeah, I don't want that sort of sequential, like you can almost line it up too much to go away, because then I think sometimes or like I think I would worry that I was sort of leaving people in the dust, like, well, I'm going through my shortcut, but I can't really understand what's happening in here. Like, I just want to try and find a workaround for like this bug I'm encountering. So yeah, that's how I'd say I feel about that. But yeah, definitely with custom actions, maybe something might have a little bit more discerning of what's best to actually put in the final output.
Yeah, I guess I just think that in addition to giving you a desktop, more comfortable development environment for shortcuts, since we're putting a compiler on top of things, there's a cool opportunity to sort of expand how we develop shortcuts. And so,
Oh yeah, for sure.
like you've already got includes, which I think is really cool, and all it has to do is copy paste code, and
Yeah.
and so like along the same line of thinking as includes, you could have libraries that you would bring in, and then Cherri could look and only copy in the functions that are being accessed. That way you don't end up
Yeah.
copying in stuff that you don't need. And so you could take some of these things that we enjoy about actual compiled programming languages, and then use that with what we know about shortcuts. Like you've already your best practices page. This applies whether or not you're using Cherri.
Right.
These are
Right.
all just really good practices for developing shortcuts in general.
Yeah.
And so it would be cool for Cherri to just be this language where you can't help but write things in the most optimal way.
I definitely do like that. Yeah. Yeah. I definitely uh, don't see the merit in that. And I do think the concept of involving JavaScript to some extent to try and get a faster sort, or just whatever, like, generic thing that you need to do, just throw it into WebKit, and it's optimized like crazy, so it'll do it super fast. um, yeah, I definitely find that stuff interesting. Yeah.
We're
Or
at about a minute 15. Sorry, T. Wilson, were you going to ask something?
no, I was gonna see if Aaron's last question could get answered, which is basically, is Cherri worth learning? Or if I'm comfortable with shortcuts, should I just do it the old way?
I would personally argue, and I might be a little bit biased here, but that doing it this way, like, is a faster experience. Obviously, um, you know, it's not commercial software, it's not proprietary software. It's going to have its issues sometimes, and so there will be times where, it's like, oh well, I have to do this thing in this way that I wouldn't normally do it, and so I'm not going to promise for right now that it's going to be uh, fully this idea, but uh, the uh, the idea with it is that you have includes, that you have raw actions, that you have all this stuff, you have all these tools at your disposal. You have make vcard. It's like, I don't have to make a text action, go find the vcard format. I can just say, hey, this is what I want to do, and Cherri will go and figure it out and take care of the rest. Like with a lot of things with the language, like stuff that I was showing where it's like, hey, it's not a direct translation, but it's way more convenient to like I was showing, like, write variable plus equals this to increment something that it is, to bring in a calculate action, put the number in that you want to do, put the variable, assign that to the variable. Like, there's stuff like that that can really cut down the amount of time you're taking just logically to do this. And this is a consequence of like shortcuts wanting to, like, obviously make this programming logic very simple, and obviously not super cumbersome to use in a practical way for your average person. I would say, for like, is it worth learning for, like, or how long or how hard would it be? I would say if you're already somebody who either can access the playground, on a device with a web browser, you're used to, maybe programming something like JavaScript or Python at the very least, or Ruby, something like that. It's not all that unfamiliar from what you like already would be familiar with. A lot of the like actions, a lot of the, like, same kind of stuff that you would be doing logically in shortcuts translates over very well. So, like, oh, I need to check something. It's like, okay, I would use an if for that. Okay, so I put if, I put my operands, and in this case, it's just in the format of a at the end of the day, at a most basic level, without all the stuff on top. um, you can make a file that is written in the same way that you would write something in a scripting language, but you're not having to drag blocks around, or go through menus. You know, some people have an easier time doing that, and that's fine. But you might spend a lot less time on your shortcuts in general using a programming language. And yeah, like, complexity and scale. That's a really good point, Chris. Like, if like, definitely what I'd say is, like, one of the main goals with Cherri, and the whole reason that I was like, I think I want to make a programming language, because I was like, hey, I've taken a bit of a break, a bit of a hiatus on this. I want to get back into shortcuts, and finding that it's like, well, there's an app, there might be something you can use over here, but it's when you have a project like this, and it's robust like this, you can glue all these files together. You can have all this logic, like, put together, and it's really the limitations at that point of the runtime. It's how many actions shortcuts will accept. It's how much computing power and memory that you have to do all of what you're trying to do in the shortcut. But you can use it to create a large project. Like whenever because it's like I remember whenever people were first making shortcuts and they'd make these huge 300 action shortcuts, just scrolling through and moving stuff around. And I remember how easy it was to lose something, to totally mess something up. But you've got way better control in a desktop environment with a text editor and a terminal. It's like you don't have to wait on things like copy paste. You don't have to like undo redo. It's like it's all there for you. You can put it in version control.
I think I definitely
On,
agree
on
that.
that note,
Go for it.
Wilson, on that note, I see you on the previous events a lot of the time. You struggle with scrolling down the actions list when there's so many. And Brandon, would you say Cherri is a solution to that as well? Like the Shortcuts app just totally breaking down when you just try when you try to scroll and look through the actions. It seems like a solution to that.
Yeah.
If you can confirm.
I mean, absolutely. You'd be able to in the same way that you pull up a project in VS Code, in a editor like this, I might not even be looking for the file. I can just be like, okay, well, I'm looking for this thing, and I can go use a find tool in your typical text editor IDE. To look throughout your project, go to various different files, all you really have to have in that scenario is just a file that you've designated as, this is my main file, this is where I include everything, this is where I define what it is. And then, you could have stuff in folders, to have a whole library that you include. I definitely have plans at some point to have Cherri have its own thing like that. So like we have like built-in custom actions that you would just have to say like I want to use the standard library or whatever, and you could have an action that could shorten down the logic that it takes to make a V card fully, because that make V card thing, because it's like an action's never gonna generally translate to more than one action. And so it's like make V card will just make some text, but if you make like a custom action like show V card, you could put a bunch of stuff in there, have all this stuff to shorten down your workflows, make your own files that you use across projects and stuff like that. Like yeah, I was like, I don't see why not. That
Yeah,
was
like
definitely
All right, I want to.
Beautiful.
that was a big reason why I made it.
I just want to give a big thanks to Brandon. I think that we're at 1.5 already, and I feel bad if I asked you for any more time. But thank you, of
Sorry.
course, for opening up the GitHub repo so that we can send you love letters or bug requests. Feel free to use it however you would like. And really, I just want to again say thank you so much for taking the time to break this down in such an elegant way. Really appreciate your thoughtfulness and really just the love that you've given to the community and this project. So thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Cool. Thanks for coming, everyone. We'll
thanks,
catch up
everybody.
next time.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks everyone for joining once again. We'll look forward to the next event, and I'll get this recording up for you guys ASAP. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Cool. Signing off. See you guys.
See ya.